Lieutenant Sarah Chun adjusted her flight helmet one last time before stepping into the briefing room at Naval Air Station Oceana. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across the faces of 12 Navy SEALs who turned to stare at her. She had expected this reaction. In her 2 years as a naval aviator, she had grown accustomed to being the only woman in rooms full of elite warriors. "Gentlemen, meet your pilot," Commander Jackson announced from behind the podium. "Lieutenant Chun will be providing close air support for Operation Neptune's Trident." A low murmur rippled through the room. Sarah noticed several SEALs exchanging glances. She recognized the look, skepticism mixed with barely concealed doubt. These men had trained their entire careers alongside male pilots. To them, she was an unknown variable in an equation where failure meant death. Chief Petty Officer Mike Rodriguez, a weathered veteran with 20 years of service, spoke first. "Sir, with all due respect, this mission requires precision flying in hostile territory. Are we sure the lieutenant has the experience for this type of operation?" Sarah felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her expression neutral. She had graduated top of her class from flight school, logged over 800 combat hours in Afghanistan, and earned her callsign Falcon for her exceptional aerial hunting skills. Yet here she stood, having to prove herself once again. Commander Jackson looked directly at Rodriguez. "Chief, Lieutenant Chin's record speaks for itself. She's logged more combat hours than half the pilots in this squadron. Her callsign isn't just for show." The mission briefing continued for another hour. Sarah studied the tactical maps, memorized the extraction points, and reviewed the communication protocols. The operation was set for the coast of Somalia, where intelligence had located a high-value target, a terrorist leader responsible for coordinating attacks against American interests in the Horn of Africa. The SEALs would insert via fast boat under cover of darkness, eliminate the target, and extract to a predetermined location where Sarah would provide overwatch and close air support if needed. It sounded straightforward on paper, but Sarah knew from experience that operations rarely went according to plan. After the briefing, the SEALs filed out of the room, their conversations hushed but audible enough for Sarah to catch fragments. "First time working with a female pilot," one said. "Hope she doesn't freeze up when the bullets start flying," muttered another. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, the SEAL team leader, approached Sarah as she gathered her notes. Unlike the others, his expression showed professional curiosity rather than doubt. "Lieutenant, I've heard about your work in Afghanistan. The guys are just nervous because they don't know you yet. Give them time." Sarah appreciated his diplomatic approach. "I understand their concerns, Lieutenant. I've been the new variable before. Actions speak louder than words." Morrison nodded. "That they do. Mind if I ask how you earned the callsign Falcon?" A slight smile crossed Sarah's face. "During a mission outside Kandahar, my team was pinned down by insurgents in a compound. The enemy had multiple firing positions, and our ground forces couldn't get a clear shot. I made 7 consecutive precision strikes, eliminating each position without any collateral damage. My wingman said I hunted those targets like a falcon diving for prey, silent, fast, and deadly accurate." Morrison's eyebrows raised slightly. 7 consecutive precision strikes in an active firefight? That's impressive. "It's what we trained for," Sarah replied simply. The next morning, Sarah conducted her pre-flight inspection of her F divided by a -18E Super Hornet with meticulous care. Every system check had to be perfect. She couldn't afford any mechanical failures that might give the SEALs reason to question her capabilities. As she ran through her checklist, she thought about her journey to this moment. Growing up in a military family, she had always dreamed of flying. Her father, a retired Air Force colonel, had encouraged her ambitions despite the challenges she would face as a woman in combat aviation. Her mother, a former nurse, had taught her the importance of staying calm under pressure. The path hadn't been easy. Flight school had pushed her to her limits both physically and mentally. Some instructors had been harder on her, expecting her to fail. Others had given her opportunities to prove herself. She had learned to let her performance do the talking. Her first combat deployment to Afghanistan had been a baptism by fire. Flying close air support missions over mountainous terrain, dealing with unpredictable weather, and providing cover for ground troops had tested every skill she possessed. But she had excelled, earning the respect of the Marines and Army soldiers she supported. Now, Facing a new challenge with an elite SEAL team, she felt the familiar mixture of excitement and determination. These men represented the pinnacle of special operations forces. Their standards were impossibly high, and their tolerance for weakness was non-existent. The flight to the operational area took 3 hours. Sarah flew in formation with 2 other aircraft, an EA-18G Growler for electronic warfare support, and a KC-130 tanker for aerial refueling. The mission required precise timing and coordination. As they approached the coast of Somalia, Sarah received radio confirmation that the SEAL team had successfully inserted and was moving toward the target compound. Her role now was to orbit at high altitude, maintaining radio contact and ready to provide immediate support if the situation turned hostile. Falcon, this is Neptune Actual. Morrison's voice crackled through her headset. We're approaching the compound. Looks quiet from our position. Copy, Neptune Actual. Falcon is overhead and ready. Sarah adjusted her orbit pattern to provide the best possible coverage of the area. Her radar showed no immediate threats, but she remained vigilant. In this part of the world, situations could deteriorate rapidly. 20 minutes later, Morrison's voice returned, more urgent this time. Falcon, Neptune Actual. We've encountered unexpected resistance. Multiple hostiles with heavy weapons, requesting immediate close air support. Sarah's heart rate spiked, but her hands remained steady on the controls. This was what she had trained for. Neptune Actual, Falcon copies. Describe your situation. We're pinned down in a courtyard approximately 200 meters east of the primary target building. Hostiles have set up machine gun positions in 3 buildings to our north and west. We need precision strikes to clear those positions. Sarah quickly analyzed the tactical situation. The SEALs were surrounded, and the enemy had superior firepower and position. Any mistakes on her part could result in friendly casualties or mission failure. Neptune Actual, I need you to mark your position with infrared strobes. I'm beginning my attack run. As Sarah banked her aircraft into position, she thought about the 7 consecutive strikes that had earned her call sign. This situation required the same level of precision, but with even higher stakes. The lives of 12 elite warriors depended on her accuracy. The first target came into view through her targeting system. A machine gun position in a concrete building, firing down at the trapped SEALs. Sarah lined up her approach, calculating wind speed, altitude, and the precise angle needed to eliminate the threat without endangering friendly forces. Neptune Actual, Falcon is engaging first target. Stay down. Sarah squeezed the trigger, releasing a precision-guided munition. She watched on her targeting display as the weapon found its mark, silencing the machine gun position instantly. Direct hit, Falcon. Morrison's voice carried a note of excitement. That was surgical. Continuing to second target. But Sarah was already adjusting her position for the next strike. The enemy had realized they were under air attack and were trying to reposition their weapons. She had to move quickly before they could establish new firing positions. The second strike was more challenging. The enemy had positioned their weapons near a civilian structure, requiring even greater precision to avoid collateral damage. Sarah took extra time to line up the shot, ignoring the urgent radio chatter from the ground team. Her second munition struck exactly where intended, eliminating another machine gun position while leaving the adjacent building untouched. Outstanding, Falcon, Morrison called out. One more position to the west, then we can move. The third target proved to be the most difficult. The enemy gunners had taken position on the roof of a building, giving them excellent fields of fire, but also making them harder to hit without causing significant structural damage that might harm civilians in surrounding buildings. Sarah studied her targeting display carefully. She would need to use a smaller munition with a lower blast radius, but that meant she had to be even more precise with her placement. As she lined up for the final strike, ground fire erupted from multiple positions. The enemy was throwing everything they had at her aircraft, filling the sky with tracer rounds and surface-to-air missiles. Sarah remained focused on her target, trusting in her aircraft's defensive systems and her own flying skills to keep her safe. The shot had to be perfect. There would be no second chance. She released her third and final munition, watching as it tracked toward the rooftop position. The explosion was smaller than the previous 2, but perfectly placed. The enemy firing position disappeared in a cloud of smoke and debris. All targets destroyed. Neptune actual. You're clear to move. Roger, Falcon. Outstanding shooting. We're moving to extract now. As the SEALs fought their way to the extraction point, Sarah continued to orbit overhead, ready to provide additional support if needed. The mission wasn't over until everyone was safely away from the target area. 30 minutes later, Morrison's voice came through her headset one final time. Falcon, Neptune actual. We're clear of the area and en route to extraction. Mission accomplished. And, Lieutenant, that was some of the finest close air support I've ever seen. Sarah allowed herself a small smile as she turned her aircraft toward home. She had proven herself to the SEALs in the most demanding circumstances possible. Her call sign had once again proven its meaning through precision, skill, and unwavering calm under fire. The flight back to base gave her time to reflect on the mission. She knew that word of her performance would spread through the special operations community. The SEALs who had doubted her capabilities would now understand why she was called Falcon. But, more importantly, she had demonstrated that excellence in combat aviation wasn't determined by gender. It was determined by skill, training, and the ability to perform under pressure. Today had been another step in proving that women belonged in every aspect of military operations, including the most elite and demanding missions. As she approached Naval Air Station Oceana for landing, Sarah felt the satisfaction that came from a mission completed successfully. The SEALs had accomplished their objective, and no American lives had been lost. In her profession, there was no greater measure of success. The debriefing would come later, followed by after-action reports and mission analysis. But, for now, she was content knowing that when the SEALs needed precision air support, Falcon had delivered exactly what was required. Her reputation among the special operations community was secure, but Sarah knew this was just one mission among many she would fly. Each one would bring new challenges and opportunities to prove herself. She was ready for whatever came next. 6 months after the Somalia operation, Lieutenant Sarah Chun found herself back in a briefing room. But this time the atmosphere was markedly different. The same SEALs who had once questioned her abilities now listened intently as she provided input on mission planning. Chief Rodriguez, who had been most vocal about his doubts, actively sought her expertise on air support coordination. Falcon, what's your assessment of the approach routes? Lieutenant Morrison asked, pointing to the aerial photographs spread across the conference table. The mission was more complex than their previous operation, a hostage rescue in the mountains of Afghanistan. 3 American aid workers had been captured by Taliban fighters and were being held in a compound nestled in a valley surrounded by steep ridges. The terrain presented unique challenges for both air and ground operations. Sarah studied the topographical maps carefully. The valley walls will create significant wind shear and downdrafts. Any pilot providing close air support will need to account for unpredictable air currents. Additionally, the altitude means reduced aircraft performance and longer weapon flight times. Commander Jackson, who was overseeing the operation, nodded approvingly. That's exactly the kind of insight we need. Falcon, you'll be flying lead on this one. We're also assigning you a wingman, Lieutenant David Park, Callsign Viper. Sarah had flown with Park before during training exercises. He was a skilled pilot with excellent tactical awareness, but he had never worked with SEALs in a combat environment. The responsibility of mentoring him while executing a complex rescue mission added another layer of challenge. The briefing continued for hours as they discussed insertion points, extraction routes, contingency plans, and communication protocols. The hostages were being held in a compound at the head of the valley, accessible only by a narrow mountain trail. Intelligence suggested 12 to 15 enemy fighters, armed with small arms and possibly rocket-propelled grenades. The plan called for the SEALs to fast rope from helicopters onto ridgelines on either side of the valley, then advance on foot to assault positions overlooking the compound. Sarah and her wingmen would provide overwatch and precision strikes to eliminate any heavy weapons or reinforcements. What made this mission particularly challenging was the presence of hostages. Every shot fired by the aircraft had to be precisely placed to avoid any risk to the American captives. The margin for error was essentially zero. Chief Rodriguez pulled Sarah aside after the formal briefing ended. His demeanor had changed completely from their first meeting. Where once there had been skepticism, now there was professional respect. "Lieutenant, I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "6 months ago, I questioned whether you belonged on our team. After Somalia, I know there's nobody I'd rather have providing air support." Sarah appreciated the gesture. "Chief, your concerns were legitimate. You didn't know my capabilities, and you were looking out for your men. I respect that." Rodriguez smiled slightly. "Well, now we know what Falcon really means. My guys have been telling that Somalia story to every SEAL team on the East Coast. 7 precision strikes under fire, and you made it look routine." The praise was gratifying, but Sarah remained focused on the upcoming mission. "This one's going to be more challenging. The terrain limits our options, and we can't afford any mistakes with hostages in the compound." "That's why we requested you specifically," Rodriguez replied. "Nobody else has the precision we need for this type of operation." The following morning, Sarah conducted an extensive pre-flight inspection of her Super Hornet. The aircraft had been loaded with small-diameter bombs and precision-guided missiles, weapons designed for surgical strikes with minimal collateral damage. Every system had to be perfect for a mission where precision was paramount. Lieutenant Park approached as she completed her checklist. Despite his callsign Viper, he appeared nervous about working with the SEALs for the first time. "Any advice for flying with special operations teams?" he asked. Sarah paused in her inspection. "The most important thing is communication. These guys coordinate ground movements down to the second. When they ask for air support, they need it exactly when and where they specify. There's no room for approximation." Park nodded, absorbing the information. "I've heard about your reputation with the teams. Pretty impressive what you accomplished in Somalia." "Somalia was about staying calm under pressure and trusting my training," Sarah replied. "This mission will require even greater precision. We're not just protecting the SEALs. We're responsible for ensuring those hostages get home alive." The flight to Afghanistan took them over rugged mountain terrain that seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. Sarah reviewed the mission parameters repeatedly, visualizing different scenarios and her responses to each one. The compound's location in the narrow valley severely limited approach angles and escape routes. As they neared the operational area, Sarah established communication with the helicopter flight carrying the SEALs. The insertion would be the most dangerous part of the operation, as the helicopters would be vulnerable to ground fire while hovering over the ridgelines. "Falcon, this is Nighthawk Flight," the lead helicopter pilot radioed. "We're approaching the insertion point. Request you clear the area of any threats." Sarah scanned the valley through her targeting systems. Heat signatures indicated multiple individuals moving around the compound, but no obvious heavy weapons positions. The intelligence had been accurate. This appeared to be a lightly defended location. "Nighthawk, Falcon shows minimal activity at the target compound. No immediate threats to your insertion. You're clear to proceed." The helicopters descended into the valley, their rotor wash creating dust clouds that obscured visibility. Sarah watched through her sensors as the SEALs fast-roped onto the ridgelines with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, 12 elite warriors had disappeared into the rocky terrain, beginning their advance toward the compound. "Falcon, Neptune Actual," Morrison's voice came through her headset. "We're in position and beginning our approach. Estimate 15 minutes to assault positions." "Copy, Neptune Actual. Falcon and Viper are orbiting overhead. No movement detected outside the compound." Sarah established a racetrack pattern above the valley, with Lieutenant Park flying a wider orbit to provide additional coverage. The waiting was always the hardest part, maintaining perfect readiness while hoping the mission would proceed without requiring her intervention. 18 minutes later, Morrison reported that his teams were in position overlooking the compound. Through her targeting system, Sarah could see the SEALs positioned on rocks and behind natural cover, their weapons trained on the building where the hostages were believed to be held. "Falcon, Neptune Actual. We have visual confirmation of hostages in the eastern building. 3 American citizens, appears to be unharmed. Beginning our assault in 60 seconds. Sarah's grip tightened on her flight controls. This was the critical moment when everything could go wrong. The SEALs would breach the compound simultaneously from multiple directions, hoping to overwhelm the defenders before they could harm the hostages. "Neptune Actual, Falcon is standing by for immediate support. The assault began with flashbang grenades and coordinated sniper fire. Sarah watched through her sensors as the SEALs moved with lethal efficiency, clearing buildings and neutralizing threats. The entire compound was secured within minutes. Falcon, Neptune Actual. Compound is secure. Hostages are safe and unharmed. We're preparing for extraction. Relief flooded through Sarah, but she maintained her focus. The mission wasn't complete until everyone was safely away from the area. Intelligence had indicated the possibility of enemy reinforcements, and the SEALs would be vulnerable during their movement to the extraction point. Her vigilance was rewarded when her radar detected vehicles approaching the valley from the east. 3 trucks moving rapidly along the mountain road toward the compound. Neptune Actual, Falcon. I have 3 vehicles approaching your position from the east, approximately 4 minutes out. Could be reinforcements. Morrison's response was immediate. Roger, Falcon. Can you intercept those vehicles before they reach our position? Sarah was already adjusting her flight path. Affirm, Neptune Actual. Viper, follow my lead. We're taking out those vehicles. The approach required careful planning. The mountain road wound through steep terrain with numerous civilian structures nearby. Sarah had to ensure her strikes would destroy the vehicles without causing collateral damage to innocent civilians. Viper, I'll take the lead vehicle. You engage the rear truck. Watch your backdrop. There are houses scattered throughout this area. Copy, Falcon. I have the rear vehicle targeted. Sarah lined up her approach on the lead truck, which was racing along the narrow mountain road. Through her targeting system, she could see armed individuals in the truck bed, definitely enemy reinforcements heading toward the compound. Her first missile struck the lead vehicle with devastating accuracy, stopping the convoy instantly. Lieutenant Park's strike eliminated the rear truck seconds later, leaving the middle vehicle trapped between the 2 destroyed vehicles. Excellent shooting, Viper, Sarah called out as she banked around for another pass. The surviving vehicle attempted to reverse direction, but the narrow road provided no room to maneuver around the burning wreckage. Sarah's second missile eliminated the final threat. Neptune Actual, Falcon. All enemy vehicles destroyed. Your route to extraction is clear. Outstanding work, Falcon. We're moving to extraction now, with all hostages secure. The extraction proceeded without incident. The helicopters retrieved the SEALs and rescued hostages from a clearing 2 miles from the compound, while Sarah and Lieutenant Park provided protective overwatch. Within an hour, everyone was safely aboard the helicopters and en route to friendly territory. During the flight back to base, Lieutenant Park's voice came through her headset. Falcon, that was incredible. I've never seen precision flying like that in combat conditions. Sarah appreciated the recognition, but she was already thinking about the post-mission analysis. Every operation provided opportunities to learn and improve, regardless of its success. Good work today, Viper. You handled your first special operations mission perfectly. The key is staying calm and trusting your training. Back at base, the debriefing revealed the full scope of their success. The 3 hostages were American aid workers who had been captured while delivering medical supplies to remote villages. Their rescue had prevented an international incident and potentially saved their lives. Chief Rodriguez approached Sarah during the post-mission meal. Falcon, I have a confession. Before working with you, I thought female pilots might not have the aggressive edge needed for special operations support. Sarah looked at him curiously. And now? Rodriguez grinned. Now I realize that what we really need isn't aggression. It's precision. And nobody delivers precision like you do. My team specifically requests you for every mission now. The conversation was interrupted by Commander Jackson, who joined them at the table. Lieutenant Shun, I wanted to inform you that word of your performance has reached very high levels. SEAL Team 6 has requested your support for an upcoming classified operation. Sarah's eyebrows raised slightly. SEAL Team 6, officially known as Naval Special Warfare Development Group, represented the pinnacle of Special Operations Forces. They were the team that had eliminated Osama bin Laden and handled the most sensitive missions in the military. What type of operations, sir? Jackson's expression became serious. I can't discuss details here, but it involves a high-value target who has evaded capture for over 2 years. The mission requires the kind of precision air support that you've become known for. As Sarah considered this new opportunity, she reflected on her journey. 6 months earlier, she had been the unknown variable in an equation where failure meant death. Now she was being specifically requested by the most elite military unit in the world. Her call sign, Falcon, had evolved from a description of her hunting skills to a symbol of precision and reliability. The SEALs who had once doubted her capabilities now considered her an essential part of their team. But Sarah knew that with greater opportunities came greater challenges. Working with SEAL Team 6 would push her skills to their absolute limits. The margins for error would be even smaller, and the stakes even higher. Lieutenant Morrison joined their conversation, having overheard Commander Jackson's mention of Team 6. Falcon, if you're working with the development group, you'll be operating at a completely different level. Those guys handle missions that can't afford to fail. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Every mission I've flown has been a mission that couldn't afford to fail. The only difference is the scale of consequences. Rodriguez leaned forward. The scale makes all the difference. With Team 6, failure isn't just mission failure. It's often national security failure. The pressure is unlike anything else in special operations. As the evening wound down, Sarah found herself looking forward to the new challenge. Each mission had taught her something new about herself and her capabilities. Working with the most elite unit in the military would be the ultimate test of everything she had learned. Her reputation as Falcon was secure among regular SEAL teams, but earning the respect of Team 6 would require her to reach even higher levels of performance. She was confident in her abilities, but she also understood that overconfidence could be fatal in special operations. The next phase of her career would determine whether she truly belonged among the absolute elite of military aviation. Sarah Chun was ready to find out. The classified briefing room at Dam Neck Naval Base was unlike any Sarah had entered before. No windows, multiple layers of security, and an atmosphere that seemed to vibrate with intensity. 8 members of SEAL Team 6 sat around a polished table, their faces bearing the weathered marks of countless dangerous missions. These men had operated in the most hostile environments on Earth and survived encounters that would break ordinary warriors. Commander Rebecca Walsh, the mission commander, stood at the head of the table. Her reputation preceded her. She had planned some of the most successful special operations missions of the past decade. When she spoke, even the elite operators around the table listened with complete attention. Gentlemen, meet Lieutenant Sarah Chun, Callsign Falcon. She'll be providing close air support for Operation Thunderstrike. Unlike her first meeting with regular SEALs, there were no skeptical glances or doubtful murmurs. These operators had done their research. They knew about Somalia, Afghanistan, and her growing reputation throughout the special operations community. Respect had to be earned with Team 6, but her track record had already opened the door. Master Chief Petty Officer James Sullivan, the team leader, spoke first. His voice carried the quiet authority of someone who had led men through impossible missions. Lieutenant, we've heard about your work with other teams. This operation will be different. The target is Hassan al-Zarqawi, the number 3 leader of a terrorist organization that has evaded capture for 3 years. Sarah studied the intelligence photos spread across the table. Al-Zarqawi's compound was located in a remote region of Yemen, surrounded by hostile territory and protected by experienced fighters. The structure was built into the side of a mountain, with natural caves providing additional defensive positions. What makes this target particularly challenging, Commander Walsh continued, is his security protocol. Al-Zarqawi never stays in one location more than 48 hours, and he's surrounded by at least 20 armed guards at all times. Intelligence indicates he'll be at this compound for a narrow window tomorrow night. The mission parameters were more complex than anything Sarah had previously encountered. The SEALs would insert via helicopter 15 miles from the compound, then approach on foot through mountainous terrain. The target building was surrounded by multiple defensive positions, including heavy machine guns and anti-aircraft weapons. Lieutenant, your role will be critical, Master Chief Sullivan explained. We need you to eliminate the outer defensive positions without alerting the guards inside the main compound. Al-Zarqawi will attempt to escape through tunnel systems if he knows we're coming. Sarah examined the tactical maps carefully. The compound's location on a mountainside meant limited approach angles for airstrikes. Additionally, The presence of anti-aircraft weapons would require her to operate at higher altitudes, making precision targeting more difficult. "What's the timeline for target elimination?" she asked. "We have a 6-minute window," Walsh replied. "Intelligence indicates al-Zarqawi conducts a security briefing with his commanders at 0200 hours local time. That's when he'll be stationary in the main building. If we miss that window, he'll disappear into the tunnel system." 6 minutes. Sarah had never operated under such a compressed timeline for multiple precision strikes. The margin for error was microscopic, and any delay could result in mission failure. Petty Officer First Class Marcus Thompson, the team's explosive ordnance specialist, pointed to the compound layout. "Falcon, we've identified 4 defensive positions that must be eliminated simultaneously. Machine gun nests here, 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 and an anti-aircraft position on the roof. They're all interconnected by radio communication." Sarah studied the positions carefully. Simultaneous strikes on 4 different targets would require split-second timing and perfect coordination. Each position would need to be engaged within seconds of the others to prevent any survivors from alerting the main compound. "Can you do it?" Master Chief Sullivan asked directly. The question hung in the air. Sarah understood that her answer would determine whether the mission proceeded or required complete replanning. 8 elite operators were counting on her assessment of her own capabilities. "Yes, sir. I'll need to use a specific attack pattern with time munitions, but it's achievable." Commander Walsh nodded approvingly. "That's what we needed to hear. This mission has been planned for 6 months, waiting for the right pilot. Your reputation suggests you're that pilot." The briefing continued for another 3 hours as they discussed contingency plans, abort criteria, and emergency procedures. Every aspect of the mission had been analyzed and planned to minimize risk while maximizing the probability of success. After the formal briefing ended, Master Chief Sullivan approached Sarah privately. His demeanor was serious, but respectful. "Lieutenant, I want you to understand what we're asking of you. This isn't just another close air support mission. The intelligence value of capturing al-Zarqawi is immense, but the political consequences of failure would be devastating." Sarah appreciated his candor. "Master Chief, I understand the stakes. What I need to know is whether your team trusts me to deliver what's required." Sullivan's weathered face broke into a slight smile. "We wouldn't be here if we didn't. Your reputation with special operations teams is exceptional. But I want you to know that we've specifically requested you for this mission because we believe you're the only pilot who can pull it off." The weight of that trust was both humbling and motivating. Sarah had worked her entire career to reach this level of recognition and responsibility. Now she had to prove that the trust was well placed. The next evening, Sarah completed her most meticulous pre-flight inspection ever. Her Super Hornet had been loaded with precision-guided small-diameter bombs, each one programmed with specific target coordinates and detonation timing. The weapons had to perform perfectly. There would be no opportunity for follow-up strikes. The flight to Yemen took 4 hours, with aerial refueling conducted over international waters. As they approached the operational area, Sarah reviewed her attack sequence repeatedly. 4 targets, 6-minute window, simultaneous strikes required. "Falcon, Neptune 6 actual," Master Chief Sullivan's voice came through her headset. "We're 1 hour from target. Weather conditions are optimal. Copy, Neptune 6 actual. Falcon is in position and ready." Sarah established her orbit pattern at high altitude, well above the range of the compound's anti-aircraft weapons. Through her targeting system, she could see heat signatures moving around the defensive positions. The intelligence had been accurate. The compound was heavily defended. 45 minutes later, Sullivan reported that his team was in position overlooking the compound. The SEALs had covered 15 miles of mountainous terrain in complete darkness, approaching to within 500 meters of their target without being detected. "Falcon, Neptune 6 actual. Target building shows multiple heat signatures. Appears al-Zarqawi is conducting his security briefing as scheduled." Sarah's heart rate elevated slightly, but her hands remained perfectly steady. This was the moment she had trained for throughout her career. 4 precision strikes in a matter of seconds, with the fate of a major counterterrorism operation dependent on her accuracy. "Neptune 6 actual, Falcon is beginning attack run. Estimate 30 seconds to weapon release." Sarah lined up her approach angle to engage all 4 defensive positions in sequence. The timing had to be perfect. Each weapon would be programmed with a specific delay to ensure simultaneous detonation despite being released seconds apart. Her first weapon targeted the anti-aircraft position on the compound roof. If that position remained operational, it could engage her aircraft during subsequent passes. The small-diameter bomb released smoothly, beginning its guided flight toward the target. Sarah immediately banked hard left to line up on the second target, a machine gun position covering the compound's main approach route. Her second weapon released 8 seconds after the first, programmed with a shorter delay to ensure simultaneous impact. The third target was the most challenging, a defensive position built into natural rock formations on the mountainside. Sarah had to account for the uneven terrain and ensure the blast pattern would eliminate the position without causing a landslide that might alert the main compound. Her third weapon released perfectly, followed immediately by the fourth targeting the final machine gun nest. All 4 weapons were now in flight, converging on their targets with devastating precision. Sarah pulled out of her attack run and climbed to a safe altitude, watching her targeting display as the 4 explosions erupted simultaneously around the compound. Each blast was perfectly placed, eliminating the defensive positions without any indication that the guards in the main building had been alerted. Outstanding, Falcon! Sullivan's voice carried genuine excitement. All targets destroyed simultaneously. No reaction from the main compound. We're beginning our assault now. The SEALs moved with lethal efficiency, breaching the compound walls and advancing toward the main building. Through her sensors, Sarah could see them clearing defensive positions and moving inexorably toward their target. Falcon, Neptune 6 Actual. We have encountered heavier resistance than expected inside the compound. Request immediate close air support on the eastern building. Sarah was already adjusting her position. Copy, Neptune 6 Actual. Describe your situation. Multiple hostiles with automatic weapons have barricaded themselves in the eastern building. They're preventing our advance to the main target. This was the critical moment Sarah had prepared for. The SEAL team was pinned down, their mission timeline was slipping, and Al-Zarqawi might escape if the situation wasn't resolved immediately. Neptune 6 Actual, mark your positions and take cover. I'm engaging the eastern building. Sarah lined up her approach with extreme care. The SEALs were operating in close proximity to the target building, requiring surgical precision to eliminate the enemy position without endangering friendly forces. Her targeting system indicated multiple heat signatures inside the eastern building. She selected a penetrating warhead designed to breach concrete walls and eliminate interior threats while minimizing external blast damage. Neptune 6 Actual, weapon away. Stay down for 15 seconds. Sarah watched as her munition struck the eastern building with devastating accuracy. The structure partially collapsed, eliminating the enemy position while leaving the adjacent areas undamaged. Direct hit, Falcon. Eastern building is neutralized. We're moving to the main target now. The final phase of the assault proceeded rapidly. The SEALs breached the main building and located Al-Zarqawi attempting to escape through a tunnel entrance. After a brief firefight, the terrorist leader was captured alive along with 3 of his key lieutenants. Neptune 6 Actual, Falcon. Target is secure. Repeat, target is secure. We have Al-Zarqawi in custody. Relief and satisfaction flooded through Sarah. The mission had succeeded beyond all expectations. Not only had they captured a high-value target, but they had also taken him alive with valuable intelligence about terrorist operations throughout the region. Falcon, Neptune 6 Actual. Mission complete. Request cover for extraction. Sarah maintained her orbit above the compound as the SEALs prepared to extract with their prisoner. Intelligence teams were already analyzing materials found in the compound, expecting to uncover information about planned terrorist attacks and organizational structures. The extraction proceeded without incident. Helicopters retrieved the SEAL team and their prisoner from a landing zone 2 miles from the compound, while Sarah provided protective overwatch until they were safely clear of hostile territory. During the flight back to base, Master Chief Sullivan's voice came through her headset. Falcon, I've been in special operations for 20 years. What you accomplished tonight was the finest precision air support I've ever witnessed. The praise was meaningful coming from someone of Sullivan's experience and reputation. But Sarah was already thinking about the broader implications of their success. Al-Zarqawi's capture would undoubtedly prevent terrorist attacks and save innocent lives. Thank you, Master Chief. Your team made it possible by executing a flawless ground assault. Negative, Falcon. Those simultaneous strikes on the defensive positions were what made our assault possible. Without your precision, we never would have reached the main compound undetected. Back at Dam Neck, the debriefing revealed the full significance of their achievement. Al-Zarqawi had been carrying encrypted communication devices and documents that provided unprecedented insight into terrorist operations across 3 continents. Commander Walsh addressed Sarah privately after the formal debriefing. Lieutenant, I've recommended you for the Distinguished Flying Cross. What you accomplished tonight will have strategic implications for counterterrorism operations worldwide. The recognition was gratifying, but Sarah was more pleased by the knowledge that their mission would protect innocent people from terrorist attacks. The ultimate measure of success in special operations wasn't awards or recognition. It was the lives saved and threats eliminated. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, who had been observing the debriefing, approached Sarah as the meeting concluded. He had been following her career since their first meeting in Somalia. Falcon, when we first met, I questioned whether a female pilot belonged in special operations. I want you to know that you've not only proven me wrong, you've set the standard that every pilot should aspire to reach. Sarah appreciated the sentiment, but she remained focused on the future. Chief, the goal was never to prove anything about female pilots. It was to be the best pilot I could be, regardless of gender. Rodriguez nodded thoughtfully. That's exactly why you've been so successful. You never made it about anything other than excellence. As word of the mission's success spread through the special operations community, Sarah found herself receiving requests for support from units she had never worked with before. Her reputation as Falcon had evolved from a description of her hunting skills to a symbol of precision and reliability under the most extreme circumstances. Master Chief Sullivan summed up her impact during a chance encounter in the base cafeteria. Lieutenant, in 20 years of special operations, I've worked with dozens of pilots. Most of them were competent, some were good, a few were exceptional. But you're in a category by yourself. Sarah was curious about his assessment. How so, Master Chief? Sullivan paused thoughtfully before responding. Most pilots provide air support. You provide precision surgical strikes that make impossible missions possible. There's a difference between supporting an operation and enabling it to succeed. The distinction was important to Sarah. She had never wanted to be just another pilot who happened to be female. Her goal had always been to be recognized as one of the finest aviators in the military, capable of handling the most challenging missions regardless of the circumstances. Her call sign, Falcon, now carried meaning throughout the entire special operations community. When SEAL teams requested air support, they specifically asked for Falcon by name. Her reputation for precision under pressure had become legendary among elite warriors who depended on that precision for their survival. But Sarah understood that reputation was something that had to be maintained and earned repeatedly. Each mission brought new challenges and opportunities to prove herself. Complacency was the enemy of excellence, and she remained committed to continuous improvement. The terrorist leader they had captured provided intelligence that led to the disruption of multiple planned attacks and the arrest of terrorist operatives in several countries. Their single mission had potentially saved hundreds of innocent lives. As Sarah reflected on her journey from a young pilot trying to prove herself to a respected member of the special operations community, she realized that her greatest achievement wasn't the recognition or awards. It was the trust placed in her by elite warriors who depended on her skills for their survival and mission success. The call sign Falcon had indeed revealed its meaning to the SEALs, not through words or explanations, but through actions under the most demanding circumstances imaginable. She had earned her place among the elite through precision, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. Sarah Chin knew that her career would bring more challenges and opportunities to serve alongside America's finest warriors. She was ready for whatever missions lay ahead, confident in her abilities and committed to maintaining the standards that had earned her the respect of the special operations community. The meaning of Falcon was clear to all who worked with her. It represented the pinnacle of precision aviation in support of the most elite military operations in the world.